All right, so get ready to get stretched in this week's video. My friend Vince Godfrey has been on staff at several different churches in different parts of the country, different types of churches. And so he's got a background that's very different from most people. And I want him to talk about an idea that, especially for those of you that are in a very contemporary church, this is going to stretch you a little bit. But I'm going to let Vince talk. I'm going to come back in and follow up. And hopefully make you see some things from a different perspective.
Worshipers of all ages that I've experienced from different denominations, different locations in our country, different kind of cultures. I have experienced that people are looking for something that is deeper, more meaningful, and more thoughtful than what they're experiencing. And this comes from all kinds of different backgrounds. The three major worship styles, if you will, that I've come across, that most of us have come across, are traditional, what is called blended, and contemporary or modern, and maybe that's a couple different themselves. And there's no one style is perfect by any means, and where one may lack, the other may highlight. So I think the highlight of the deep meaning in a lot of the traditional things, such as maybe liturgy or ancient words, these words that have lasted over centuries, because they have a lot of meaning, not just because they're traditional, not just because they're sentimental, but there's deep meaning in them. I believe that's why a lot of them have lasted. You can still reword things. I didn't like Oswald Chambers' My Utmost for His Highest until it was put in modern English. Then I can understand it a little bit better. So those words could be modified. The contemporary modern services offer a lot of contemplative worship, a lot of deeper emotional things that maybe the traditional ones did not have, as well as more experiential worship, which is wonderful, but may be lacking some of that deeper meaning at times. The blended services, my experience is most what has been called blended is a combination of superficial elements of those other two, not a deeper of either one. Often in a church context, it's what existed and then adding the new thing on top, usually traditional, adding contemporary elements. And that's what when the blended worship stuff came about with Bob Weber, and I believe it was the 80s, that's not what he intended. And so change the wording to what we call now convergence worship, which is that combination of that deep meaning in the liturgical spoken elements and this kind of a structure, but how you fill in that structure is as infinite as God is, as creative as God is, and in the elements of the service. And it could be a new song, old song, a prayer, interpretive dance, but what it is it's full of meaning, it's full of old and new, and it's contextual for that church, that worship service even. So I think that is something that I think people, I'm not saying convergence worship is the only way to go by any means. It's not there's no one fix to everything, but I do believe people are longing for something more meaningful and deeper and relatable and relevant in these days.
All right, so Vince is talking about different styles, but mostly he's emphasizing content. I want to angle this just a little bit differently, and I want to talk about the whole style idea, because it's really easy for us, regardless of either end of that spectrum that he talked about, to kind of get stuck where we're at and forget that perhaps maybe there's other things that we need to consider. I was reading a book recently by a man named Andrew Wilson, and in the book, Andrew said this: "It is tempting for congregations to specialize, to cater exclusively to those who prefer songs, sermons, or sacraments. Though contextualization is vital and in fact inevitable, it can, especially in Western cultures, become a euphemism for narrowing your focus and tailoring your brand for a specific target audience. But the unintended consequence of this is the division of God's people. Those who like quiet and routine go this way. Those who like noise and spontaneity go that way. And the teenagers are in the room out back with the smoke machine. Specialization in worship may gather a crowd in the short term, but in the long term, it kills diversity." Wow, what a great statement. And I want you to think back to what Vince was saying about the ends of the spectrum, if you will, the traditional, very contemporary. If you're at either end of that spectrum, then you're missing folks that are in between. And I'm not telling you to leave your the way that you do things. I am saying that what Andrew Wilson talks about, and having your target audience, and that's all you're going for, what that does is that it leaves behind part of the body of Christ. You know, part of how we learn is by interacting with people who are different from us. If all we ever do is just have people that are just like us, I think we're missing it. And so I like Vince's idea. Again, I'm not trying to push this hard. I'm not trying to shove it down your throat. I am trying to get what he's saying and what I'm saying here to cause you to think differently. How is this idea, and maybe you're not the one that makes the final decisions of style and how all of that stuff works. Maybe you need to share this with your pastor, with the leadership of your church. But it's easy for us to begin to leave behind others simply because we prefer this, and we're going after the 20-somethings, or maybe you're at the other end of the spectrum, we're going after the 60-somethings. But if we do that, then we're missing part of the body of Christ. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's good for us, for any church, any place. And so I want to stretch you a little bit and cause you to really think through, what are we doing? Use those elements that have stood the test of time in your worship, but also use things that are contextually going to work well in 21st century America, but hopefully for a broader spectrum of people than just a certain demographic or certain age group.
Brought to you by myworshipleadingcoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.